All right. So I'm going to get started. So we are recording this session and this will be shared with anyone who has registered, and you'll be able to access this as well. But want to get things started just because there's a lot I want to cover. People will probably trickle in or join, watching it later, and all that is good, but lots of good stuff to cover today. So feel free to either post in the comments, or if you are watching this on replay, you can feel free to post in the comments there as well. But today's workshop is all about preparing your accounting firm for the new year and those peak busy periods. So this is for accountants of all shapes and sizes. So whether you're a solopreneur or you have a large firm, whether you are a bookkeeper, whether you are just do taxes, whatever the case may be, whether you're US or not, these are all the things that you're going to need to take a look at as a TaxDome user as you dive into the new year. And so we did a similar training like this last year. Some definite differences, but the goal of it really is knowing that come January, things start getting a little crazy, and we want to make sure that you're prepared before then. So the goal would be to take some action to do some of these things. I know we're getting pretty close to the holidays here, but there's still some time. So there's some things that you can do to really prepare yourself for next year. If you're still doing this in January, that's okay too. But the goal is just to really try and get ahead of the curve. And so what we are going to talk about today is what are the key areas of change that have happened over, especially the last year, both, we're talking about industry, we're talking about TaxDome, we're talking about your business. And then we're going to actually workshop. We're going to go into TaxDome. I'm going to walk you through some of the core areas that you should be going in and looking at. And then we're also going to talk about what are the other things that you can take offline and you can do there. So I definitely recommend having your TaxDome screen up as we dive into this, if you're able to, because that's going to allow you to really start diving in and potentially looking at some of these things too. You don't have to do that. Of course, you can do that later as well with the resources we talk about today. And then lastly, we'll just talk about some of those additional resources. There's a checklist we have for you at the end that you can get as well, and some other resources just to help make sure that you have everything you need as you head into the end of the year and as you get into the busy period of January as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. And what we are going to be talking about today are really primarily these 4 areas. So what are the things that are impacting your TaxDome that you're going to need to get a handle on more or less right now, early January, right? So we're going to talk about what are the system changes, feature updates that have happened within TaxDome this past year, and how could they be impacting your workflows, your overall TaxDome as well. What are the processes or team changes that you have had in your business that could be that could be affecting your TaxDome, and just things that might need to change there? Are there any new offers that you have? This may apply to some of you and not all, but sometimes people might add in, payroll, or they may add in tax planning, et cetera, throughout the year. So let's talk about how that might impact your TaxDome. And then lastly, industry updates. What are the things we need to be thinking of that have happened in your state, in country, et cetera, that could be affecting your TaxDome that you may need to account for as well. So we know in the US, BOI was a big one. That's kind of in flux right now, but those are some of the things that have been happening in the industry. And if it's part of your workflows, what do we need to do to make sure you're ready for that as well? So we're going to dive into each of these, and then again, we'll go ahead and dive into your TaxDome as well as ours. Okay, so what we've listed here are some of the core updates from this year. So keep in mind a few things. One, they're still rolling things out. So TaxDome has let us know they don't plan on having a lot of heavy releases come the beginning of next year. Last year, there were a lot, and I think that didn't work well for everybody. And so I think their goal is to really try to avoid having big releases that impact users during that busy period. Having said that, there still could potentially be some little things that pop up here and there. But these are some of the bigger things that have happened over this past year that you may not have accounted for in your workflows. And if you haven't, these are things that you can look at how do I need to adjust for these in either like what you actually do in TaxDome or maybe in the way that your team handles it. So the first one is the proposal template updates. There's been some big changes to incorporate proposals, and they are now combined with the engagement letter. So there, if you haven't seen that yet, there's a lot of additional features. The look is different. You can add in some different things, and you can find that under your proposal and engagement letter templates. They added in SMS communication. So that is an added on service that you have to pay for. But that is something that you can incorporate into your workflows as well. Attaching files and email templates. This was a seemingly small one, but also really kind of a big one as well, where you have the ability now as you're creating your email templates, if there's something you want to attach out, a lot of times we'll see people want to send it like, maybe any tax year changes or changes to their process or firm updates, team bios, things like that, that they may want to include into their pipelines. So you can now build those out with attachments into your pipelines as well. Client-facing job statuses. This one's been really big. And if you haven't gone into your pipelines yet, I definitely recommend going in and taking a look. We'll look at them in a second as well, because this is something that you can proactively communicate with your clients where you're at with their work, and that can help reduce that back and forth email potentially. So that is a big change, a big feature update that has happened this year that I definitely recommend going in and taking a look at, because it's something that can really hopefully help you reduce, again, that back and forth with clients. There's been definitely quite a few changes in the invoicing area. So if you haven't gone in and taken a look at those templates and those options recently, I recommend going in and doing that, because there are some changes that might affect the way that you're invoicing if you haven't seen them already. There's some things that might affect just the way you want to make sure, if you do have a team, that you are training your team on, if they haven't been in TaxDome in a while, if they haven't seen this, if they're new. There's just some interface changes. So the way things look in TaxDome might feel a little bit different. We'll look at that in a second as well, but really just, I think, the goal is to streamline things, make things easier. And I think even today I saw there's another activity feed that they're incorporating. So there's going to be interface design changes still probably happening through the end of the year, or maybe even beginning of January. But it's important that your team and you are familiar with the layout of TaxDome. So if you haven't really spent much time in there lately, make sure you do go in and get clear on where things are. Things have moved around. They do look a little bit different in TaxDome. Similar with the job card itself, they've incorporated some changes there. So the job cards, as you're working through them in TaxDome, might look a little bit different than what you're used to as well. So from a training perspective, you definitely want to go in and make sure your team is familiar with that. Same, well, really all of these things, but same with time tracking. There's some changes and things that have been incorporated there that you'll want to make sure that if you are using time tracking, that you spend some time getting familiar with what that looks like in TaxDome. There's also been changes to bulk email limits. So I forget the exact number before. Let's say it was like 500 emails you could send a day or something like that. You have more options now. And so you can actually go in on your firm settings and you can change what those bulk email limits are. So how many you want to be able to send in a day. And you want to make sure that you update that. So if you do have a large client pool that you're trying to email, you want to make sure that you do update those bulk email limits so that they can go out and they don't get delayed. Personalized client statuses. This is something so similar kind of with the client-facing job statuses. You can personalize those by client. So if there is something specific you want to communicate, you can update that. And again, that goes into their portal. They won't get like a message about it or an email. It's just something, if they go into their client portal, they can see anything specific that's going on with them. So that's really helpful, again, for that proactive communication, hopefully help reduce the back and forth emails. Client requests. This has been another big area where there are now options where you can send basically like a mini organizer almost to them. They don't even have to sign in. You can ask them to upload things. You can ask them brief questions, and you can send that out just, at any point. And they're just kind of a simple way to do that. And so, especially maybe with bookkeeping, this is something that could be really helpful in making sure that you get what you need from them. If you forgot to collect something or they forgot to give you something, instead of them having to email it, you can, attach a really simple client request, send it out to them, and they can upload that or respond back to those questions. You can also use those for all your clients if there's something that you want to go in and you want to ask everyone, or some, certain kinds of clients. You can send out just like a really mini short questionnaire, very simple, easy for you to kind of create and then just send out. There have been some mobile app updates. So if you haven't been in or your clients haven't been in really much this year, they may need to get refamiliar with those. There are videos about, especially on the client side, using the mobile app. And so you can send those out to your clients. I do recommend sending some kind of communication, especially for tax clients as we get towards the end of the year, maybe beginning of the year, letting them know of any changes to your business. You can reattach the mobile app video and just kind of let them know, hey, here's what's happening this year. We're excited to get started in the new year. And if you're bookkeeping, similar, you can send out just an end of the year, happy holidays, and here's what's going on this year. Here's what you can expect next year. And that's a good way to close out the year and get started in the new year while also communicating any of these differences with them as well. This is another time you could also talk about rate increases. If there's any changes to your rates, this would be another place where you could include that as well. That's not on the list. That's just another suggestion. Another thing that has very recently come out is the no login e-signatures. So this is something I think that we've heard a lot of people request, where you can request that e-signature, just a link. They don't have to go into their portal. They don't have to log in. That's going to make things a lot easier for those on-the-go quick signatures. Little thing here, but adding images to job comments. If there is, a team that you're working with and you're both kind of working on the same job and there's an image you want them to see, you don't have to, add in a link to somewhere. You can just add the image straight into those job comments so that anyone on the team can quickly see those as well. And then bulk toggles for client login and notifications. If you haven't seen this, what this is referring to that just recently came out is the ability to, in bulk, turn on all of your clients or some of your clients' logins and notifications. So if you are brand new to TaxDome, for example, and you did not add in portal access when you added all of your clients into TaxDome, there is now a way to do that in bulk. This is brand new. I have seen, maybe it's not working perfectly quite yet, but I'm hopeful that it will be, or you can try it out and see if it is, just to make sure you can test it on a small number of accounts. But the idea of this is that you can turn on access, notify them and invite them to their portals and sync their emails at any time, and you can do it in bulk. So what happened last year with us, for some of our clients who were new to TaxDome, they hadn't turned that access on when they first added their clients into the system. And so the only way to do it, to turn that access on, was to go in one by one to each account and turn that on. That is a huge time suck. And so to be able to do that in bulk now through your account list window is huge. So that's just another really nice little feature that you can incorporate right now. And then keep in mind, this is kind of hidden, but there are a lot of other things coming out. We'll just have to keep an eye on the dates. Like I said, there shouldn't be anything, in that February to March, early April timeframe, but let's keep an eye on things, and you get the emails as well to make sure that there isn't anything that is impactful to you. But from now until that kind of mid-January, end of January timeframe, there may still be some things coming out. So we'll stay plugged in and make sure, if there's any things coming out, make sure you're staying plugged into us. We share those things, especially inside of our community as well, to keep you plugged in. Okay, lots to do, obviously, on the system side. Let's switch gears now and let's talk about your own business. So this is where it does start to look very different for everyone. So whether you're a solopreneur, whether you have a team, maybe you're going to grow your team for the first time. There are certain things you want to be thinking about as your team changes, as your processes maybe change as well. So if you are adding in new team members, temporary team members, whatever the case may be, there's some considerations that you're going to want to make sure that you do as you grow or even contract your team. So systems access. We want to make sure that all new team members have all the access ready to go before the busy period starts, because there's nothing worse than them showing up on, if you're a tax preparer, for example, February 15th, you're already in the thick of it and you're struggling to get their access. So as much as you can, giving them the right access before tax season or your busy period starts so that they know what they're doing. And that goes hand in hand with training also. You do not have time to train come your busy period, right? So if you are bringing on new team members, hopefully that's happening now, through the end of the year, and you can spend that time to make sure that they are ready to go day one and they are all trained, and you can give them all the tools that they need to be successful, and you aren't trying to scramble come your busy period, because again, what happens then is you don't have the time to train them. So oftentimes they don't necessarily get the appropriate training and they feel like they're behind, they're not contributing the way they want to. So you want to make sure that you do have that training ready to go and that they're feeling as much as possible up to speed. Another area specifically within TaxDome is updates to task ownership. So inside of all of your tasks, inside your templates in TaxDome, you may be switching ownership of, maybe it used to be Jesse and now it's Jerry, who owns a specific task. So in your templates, you do need to go in and change who owns every specific task. And then even emails, if there's certain emails that now Jerry should be sending, you want to make sure that you update your templates that are in your pipelines to show an email coming from Jerry and not, I think I said Jesse, right? So making sure that all those templates are showing the correct owner, coming from the right person, etc. And then the last thing here is access inside of TaxDome. You want to make sure that you are adding any new team members or removing team members access to pipelines. So you have to do that through every pipeline template. You need to make sure that, and I'm happy to show you guys that in a minute, you want to make sure that the correct team members have access to the correct pipelines. Similarly, you also want to make sure they have the correct access just in general in TaxDome, but also to clients. Like if there's certain clients they're not supposed to have access to, you want to make sure that you update that. You want to make sure that they have all the right access going. And then, so that's for the, really what new team members need. Separately, you want to make sure, go kind of do an inventory, do a brainstorm. What's anything new in your business? Any new processes, any changes that you have added in? We talked about, and this is more on the next slide, but like we talked about the BOI at the beginning process. So if there is anything that you've added in your firm that you feel like may impact what you do in TaxDome, you want to make sure that you are really thinking through, how does that apply to my pipelines? How does that apply to my templates? Are there any things, do I have it here? Okay. Are there any things like fee increases, or are there things, that need to be in your engagement letters? Is there a different kind of service you're providing? Or maybe you're taking away something in your service. So bookkeeping, maybe you used to include, you would run some reports and now you don't include that. So making sure that any of those changes are accounted for in all of your TaxDome templates. So your organizers, your emails, your tasks, your proposals and engagement letters, your invoices. So you want to make sure that it's really accounted for in there, because what you want to prevent happening is, something going out that is no longer accurate. So especially in your engagement letters, those terms really need to be updated to make sure that that is all showing the relevant information now, and that you're not under or over promising, and that everything is in line. Okay. So now we're talking about new offers and industry updates. So this is going to vary again by business, by state you're in, etc. But really what this is looking at is I mentioned it already before, but are there any new offers that you have? So are you including payroll now or adding in payroll now or tax planning? Do you have proposals for that? Do you have terms? Are there invoice templates you could create? Are there any of those things that you are adding in or you have added in that you don't have accounted for in TaxDome? You could even take it a step further of, do you need a pipeline for those? And is that something that if you created that now, it's going to really help you out come next year? So it's worth just taking a look, taking an inventory, do a brainstorm. Is there anything you're offering? And is that accounted for in TaxDome? It's almost like for this in the last slide, like a T-chart, right? Where you just brainstorm everything that's changed or new or whatever. And then it's a check, does this impact TaxDome? Yes or no? Then have I updated it in TaxDome? Yes or no? What are all the areas I need to update in TaxDome? And then you can kind of list those out. So it's really helpful to just do that inventory so that you're really being thoughtful. And if you have a team, I recommend doing that in a team meeting if you can, so that you guys can all talk about like, okay, what are you doing that's changed? What are you doing? And everyone's on the same page. And then similarly, any industry updates, think about any changes to laws in your state. Are there any new questions you need to ask in your organizers? Are there any terms that you need to make really clear in your engagement letter or proposal? Again, just document those out, any of those big changes. A lot of times we'll see our clients will send an email at the end of the year right now to their client base, letting them know of all the tax year changes. So when you go through that, then you can start to think, do any of those impact what I have in TaxDome? And again, do I need to account for it? Do I need to update something, etc.? Okay. And this one, kind of my favorite, I don't know. Don't forget the cleanup. There is nothing worse than going into a brand new busy season with a very messy TaxDome. It's like, for me, if I'm about to have a big party at my house and I didn't clean my house, then it feels like I'm getting off on a really not so good start. I just feel, disheveled. I just don't feel organized, all those things. So I don't know if that's a great analogy or not, but hopefully you get the point of it's really important to make sure that you are doing the cleanup, doing the work now, so you have a clean slate going into TaxDome. This is what we're going to spend a few minutes on in a minute or two here. But here's some things to think about. So when I say clean up the TaxDome, we want to be really careful about things that we are cleaning up and what we are doing with those. In general, a basic rule in TaxDome is you want to archive things, not delete. So there may be a few things that you may want to ultimately delete from maybe like templates, things like that. But in general, the rule would be all of your old accounts, pipelines, jobs, all of those things are going to be archived, because you can always go in and check the audit, and do an audit of them, look at the history. You can also always unarchive them. And so we want to make sure that we are archiving things as much as possible. So I kind of like to start this way when it comes to cleanup. I start with the insights to see what needs to be cleaned up in there, what items are still sitting in my insight. The insights is your overview page we'll look at in a second. What are the items that need to be closed out that just haven't been? What are the things that need to be archived because they're no longer relevant? Getting through as much of those as possible. Then head over to your Inbox Plus. I would say most of the clients that we've worked with end up with somewhere over like 900 items in there. It's not the same for everybody, but we want to go through and we want to clean those up to make sure that we've taken every action we need to. And again, we're starting with a clean slate. I also really recommend cleaning up your TaxDome templates, but be careful with this. One thing that we do see pretty often is that a lot of our clients will try some of the TaxDome's templates and they'll download one of their pipelines from their, not the marketplace, but just from the templates that they have. And what happens when you download a TaxDome pipeline template is it adds all of the other templates to it. It adds all the tasks, emails, etc. And then if you do that multiple times, you end up with a ton of templates that you are not using in TaxDome or even duplicate ones. So take the time to go into TaxDome and clean up those templates that you are not using. You want to be really careful, and there are some warnings and things like that to make sure you're deleting or removing the right ones. But if they are ones that you never meant to download, they have never been used, they're not being used, whatever the case may be, you can go clean those up, especially those duplicates. And that's going to make it easier for you to maintain and update the templates you do want to use. And so we really recommend using some naming conventions in those templates. So your tasks, your emails, your chats, so you know which pipelines they're associated with, and you know like what workflow they matter for. And then a lot of those ones you're going to end up cleaning up might just be either like duplicates or those ones you downloaded that one time that you never used. So look at that in a second too. Updating your templates. So I mentioned this already, but the language that you're using, the ownership of those tasks, emails, chats, tasks and emails, and any automations that you need to as well. And then updating your pipelines to include any of those changes. We'll show you one specific one in just a second here. And then ensuring your team access and readiness is ready to go. I do have a link here. I'm going to share it with you. Let's see. Okay, I'll share that with you in the chat in just a second as well. Okay. So now let's go ahead and we're going to dive into this live workshop. And so this is where if you want to have your TaxDome up while you watch this, then you can do that. Or you can just kind of this later. I'm going to throw this on my other screen real quick because I'm going to show you TaxDome. So we can just go ahead and dive in. Keep in mind, our TaxDome needs to be cleaned up. So we do have, and keep in mind too, our TaxDome is a little different than yours because we use it for training purposes. So it is not a live client facing TaxDome. And so we do have a lot of training things in there. So just to kind of set the stage a little bit on that, yours will have a lot of, obviously your client things and all of that. So the first thing I like to do when I'm ready to go clean up, specifically like our clients, for example, is go to the insights page. You may have 150 or 70 or 5 items in each of these. But what's nice is you can go through one by one and start to take action. So and honestly, I recommend doing this not just at the end of the year. I recommend doing this like once a month at least, if not more frequently. Maybe it's once a week. But you go in and you start to click in. Okay, I have 7 overdue jobs. What is happening with each of these? I am clearly behind on some of my bookkeeping here. Oh, and then you can start clicking in and say, oh, you know what? That client no longer is working with me. So I review it. I don't need to do anything. I'm going to go ahead and archive that one because, there's nothing else that needs to be done. Or maybe you go in and you're like, oh, you know what? This client, this is actually pretty, there's something going on. So we're going to just actually save this and we're going to work on this in January or February, whatever. And you assign a new due date. So going through each of those to figure out what's going on with it. If there is anything else like on hold, whatever, you can also add comments to that job to indicate, for the next time that you do this, oh, okay, this is delayed because of X, Y, and Z. I'm waiting for this. Whatever the case may be, you can add those comments in. So that way you kind of have an idea of where everything is at. This is also a great thing for an admin to do if you have an admin who works for you, who can go in and help clean these things up too. Approaching deadline, those are things that aren't quite due yet. So those may need to just sit there. Things that have no activity. I want to go in and I want to understand what's happening with each of these. Oh, maybe I just forgot to close that one out or archive it or change the date. So same thing, you can go in and you can just see what's going on and take action on all of those. So again, really good way to just kind of sort through everything and see what's going on. Then we can move on to our tasks. We obviously have a lot of overdue tasks in here. So you can kind of go through and do the same thing. Like, oops, I forgot to change. That one is, I don't need to do that anymore. So I'm going to just cancel that task. Oh, this lead, they ghosted me. And I think I'm actually just that job's on hold now. Or maybe you archived it. So I don't need to worry about this anymore. So I'm going to cancel it. And so you can kind of go through and take action on all of those and again, see what's going on and take maybe you need to change the due date. Maybe we're moving it to later, whatever the case may be, you can take that action. So that's kind of the second one. And then you can kind of do the same thing with your clients. And this again is a great thing for an admin to do. You come in and you say, oh, I have all these invoices unpaid. I need to follow up with each of these clients and I need to see what's going on. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to message them, or I'm going to, send a reminder, whatever the case may be. Organizers oftentimes might be sitting there because they didn't get submitted. And so you can go in, do you need to submit them on your client's behalf? Keep in mind any automations that might kickstart if you do that. Or maybe you need to unlink them from any pipelines, or maybe you need to archive them. Maybe the client isn't working with you anymore. Whatever the case may be, you can take action on those. E-signatures, this gives you a good idea of what's pending and out there. Proposals oftentimes might be sitting there if maybe it was like a lead and now they have ghosted you or they've said no or whatever. So maybe you need to archive those. So again, go through each of these and see what action needs to be taken. If you have a lot in here, maybe you spend a little bit of time each day starting to go through those. And the same thing is going to be with your Inbox Plus. I surprisingly only have 11 in here right now. I think the last time before I cleaned it up, I had a couple hundred. And so it can take forever. And when you're going through this, one, yes, you want to see, is there action that needs to be taken? You can click into them. You can also archive them here. You also should get an idea of, okay, I'm not doing anything with all these organizer completed. I don't want to get these notifications anymore. So this is where you can go into your notification preferences here to say, I do not want to get notified about these. I'm checking them another way. Maybe this is no longer necessary. So you're taking action, but you're also thinking through, this isn't working for me. I want to make sure I don't get these notifications. Let's take action. So, kind of twofold there. The next area of cleanup is when we're going to go into our pipeline templates. So if we go into our templates here, we're going to go into our firm templates. And this is where you'll see we're guilty too, right? We have a lot of these. These are all the TaxDome ones. Anytime they start with this, EN US, for example, these are ones that have been downloaded from their library. Take a look at them. You can see, is it used in any pipelines? If you go and you want to delete it, it's going to give you this warning. Are you sure you want to delete it? This is where you will find it. And you might say like, oh, I'm actually using that pipeline. I definitely don't want to do that. So be very, very cautious and very, very careful when you are deleting any templates. You want to be very sure of what you are doing and where you are deleting them. So, you can kind of play around and you can see, for example, where they're used. You can get that warning. Unfortunately, the dots on the right-hand side are very far from the name. And so again, you want to be careful and cautious that as you are deleting them, that you did correctly choose the template you actually want to delete. So just a note on that. Or maybe you just want to not delete them. You just want to call them archive or rename them or something so they go to the end of your list, whatever it is. I know we see oftentimes with tasks, especially, it can be really overwhelming for someone's brain to go in and see, I have all these, where do I even find these templates? There's so many in here. So what you'll see with ours is we always name them, like I mentioned, with the pipeline. So we have hiring pipeline, we have our lead pipeline, we have our onboarding pipeline, and so monthly bookkeeping. And so we always start with the name of that pipeline so it's easier to find. That's something that works really well for us. And we do that for all of our clients that we build as well. Just a good tip to locate things. It just gets really overwhelming in here oftentimes if you aren't careful with that. And so you're going to go ahead and you're going to do that with your proposals. You want to clean those up. You want to make any updates to any of these. That's kind of separate from the cleanup part, but oftentimes we'll see a lot of duplicates in there for sure. Jobs, you can go in and see which ones are irrelevant for you now, or maybe they need an update as well. I mentioned earlier the client-facing statuses. This is a place where you can also go in and make updates to those too. And then the last one, second to last one, I should say, is our tags updates. We want to make sure that and I say second to last one, there's a lot of updates you need to make, but as far as what we're going through today, these are the things I'm going to talk about. So your tags, you can go in and you can update, especially if you use any years, like if you want to track that 2024 tax year, for example, then you'll want to make sure you add in new tags. You don't necessarily have to delete any tags, but you do want to make sure that you are adding in and incorporating any new tags that you want to do, because ultimately what you're going to get to is updating your pipeline for any automations too. So we're going to use an example here. This is our tax prep pipeline. And what you'll notice in here is very first thing when we come in to our pipeline, we have a 2023 tag, because this pipeline we used for last year, right? And so we now want to make sure that we change this and we're looking at it. And instead of 2023, we now need to make sure that we incorporate the 2020, which I didn't add. Okay, pretend this is 2024. We want to make sure that we incorporate the 2024 tag. So that's going to be important to make sure we update. Again, pretending this is 2024. But when you're looking at your pipelines, that's where too, you can go in and you can say, okay, here's all the things going out. Oh, I need to go change my invoice template because my rates have increased. Oh, I need to change my engagement letter because my terms have updated. So when you start going through each of these, it's a good place to go say, oh, this message going out, oh, I want it to say this instead. Oh, the organizer, I have to ask now this new question. And so as you go through all of your pipelines, that's when you can start recognizing also, oh, okay, you go back to that brainstorm list we talked about at the beginning. You can now say, oh, that's right. Okay, I needed to add this question to my 1040 organizers. And you can go in and do that. And, oh, I need to update the new folder year because we need to incorporate 2024 now. So as you go through each of your pipelines, look at each automation and go back to your list of that you brainstormed at the beginning to identify what are things that have changed and what do you need to add or incorporate now. So it's a really good kind of like final check, if you will, when you've made all your other updates, you've cleaned things up. And then lastly, what touches the clients, your pipelines, right? Any automations that go out to them. So you can take everything you've kind of documented or you've thought about and learned, and then you go into each of your pipelines that you're using, go through each automation, and maybe there's a task. Oh, I forgot what name I used. Jerry works here now. Jerry's actually doing this. I want to make sure that this is assigned to Jerry because he does that now. So then you can go into that task and you can assign, in the template, and you can assign it to Jerry. So really good kind of final check, if you will, to go through all of these and identify any changes to the feature updates, to your process or team changes, industry updates, all those things. You can go through and do this check. A big one you're going to find this year is if you do want to include those client-facing statuses, those were not available last year. So now you can say, oh, you know what? I want to add in the client-facing status to let them know that, maybe it is in progress, and you can edit it here. So that's kind of a place to go in and you can make all of these edits and make all those changes as well. So lots of changes that can be made in TaxDome, and now's the time to do it, right? Because obviously we scrolled through this really quickly. I didn't expect you to be able to make all those changes as we go through it, but you can take these down, do your brainstorm. We have the checklist I mentioned. I'm going to actually add the link for in the chat right now. And then I will also share this with everyone as well. So let me do this before I forget. Okay, so that should be in the chat now. You have access to that. And again, if you have questions, definitely put them in the chat or the comments as well. So I'll be perfectly honest, we went through that very fast. I tend to move a little too fast sometimes. So you can replay this and walk through it, but really at the end of the day, take each of these areas. They are in this checklist right here as well. And you want to go through right here, go through them, think about your processes, determine what may be changing, and then go in and take the action that you need to. Sit down with your team, assign them things. Maybe one person owns updating all the tasks. Maybe one person owns updating all the engagement letters. Make sure you know who owns what and put a date out there, and they can all get updated and make sure that they reflect the latest information. But this checklist is a good way to just kind of make sure that you are hitting all the things, all the areas that you want to as well. Okay, so how or where do we start? I talked about the checklist that is linked for you now. If you don't have everything out there that you want, maybe you are like, I don't even have my pipelines created. Maybe you only have your clients in TaxDome and that's all you've been doing. Then you can use the templates that are available to you to help streamline your workflows, to save you time so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's also a lot of videos and tutorials out there. As some of you know, we do have our Take Off with TaxDome bootcamp. I mentioned it down here, where we do give you those exact templates, those exact trainings for your tax and also your bookkeeping. And there's a bonus lead onboarding one in there too. But there's tools out there, so you don't have to sit down and do this on your own or start from scratch if you don't have something in there yet. And then another big one is getting your team up and running. So if you hadn't heard, we actually have an admin training program that's available now as well, called the A+ Academy. Feel free to reach out to us if you want to learn more. It's also on our website. And that really will train your admins on how to use TaxDome, but also a lot of other systems and softwares. We have trainings on those available via that academy. And then we also have just some general soft skills around, time management and driving things forward and skills that they need to help you as well. So just know that those are available as well. I did not introduce us at the beginning, and I should have. I'm Katie. Ashley is not here with us today. She's my business partner. We are the co-founders of Cabot in Maine. We have worked, we need to update this probably, I think it's 15 years plus now. We've worked in accounting, operations, systems, technology, accounting, small business, big business, all the things for 15 years now. So we definitely know a lot about accounting and software and workflows and all of that. And we joined together back in 2021 to form Cabot in Maine, where we do work with businesses like you to make these things happen. So kind of talked about this already, but just to share a little bit about our background at the end here, we really love working with TaxDome because of all the softwares that we've worked with, we do feel like this is one of the best ones to help bring it all together for firms. And that's why we do trainings like this. And we talk about it a lot because we feel like it is a fantastic tool to get you where you need to be with your business. It brings a lot of things into one. It can help you save a ton of money because you don't need as many systems. It can help you save a ton of time. And while we do work with a lot of these other systems, TaxDome is definitely up there as far as one of our favorites because of its ability to really streamline things for you. And they're constantly putting out new features and things that really can help the broader accounting community. And so we're a big fan of that as well. So if you are not already part of one of our memberships or programs, we did want to just share a little bit with you about that, if that's okay with you, because we want to make sure that you know that while you can do these things alone, you do not have to. We know that you don't have a lot of time, especially this time of year. Raise your hand if you're already feeling overwhelmed from the holidays And knowing that tax season or January for bookkeepers, all those things are coming up. It's a really tough time of year for a lot of people, but we also know the power of getting your business organized and streamlined and the massive difference that that can make for you personally, your team, your clients, and your business. And so we wanted to just share some ways that you can really help to move your business along now before it gets too crazy, but in a way that doesn't add too much overwhelm to you. So this is why we developed our signature Take Off with TaxDome program, because it's very hyper-focused on the exact things that you need for busy season, meaning you don't have to build every single thing in your TaxDome out right now if you're new to it, or even if you have something in there, but it's not kind of quite what you want it to be. Don't feel like you have to go A to Z and take care of everything. You can choose A, B, C, and just take care and streamline a small part of it and worry about the rest later. And that's what this boot camp does. It allows you to really focus on building 4 workflows. You can do tax, you can do bookkeeping. If you want to do both, you can do both. The idea is to get it done really fast, so you can build these out in the next 4 weeks. You can do it quicker if you really want to. And this program really helps to leverage industry best practices. We work with hundreds of firms to help them do this. So we know what works. We have done this a lot, and we're constantly streamlining them as well, meaning our templates and tools. We want you to understand TaxDome, but you don't have to know everything right now. We want you to get just the trainings that you need so that you can make this happen right now without the overwhelm. If you do this now, you're going to be able and build just these core workflows out. You're going to save time, you're going to save money, you're going to stop wasting so much time, and you'll be able to hit the ground running because you're going to get the exact templates and the exact training that you need, again, to make this happen before the craziness starts. On top of that, we do have a community where this program takes place so that you can get all your questions answered either inside the community or via our live weekly sessions. So, you'll get your templates, you'll get your trainings, but you're not alone. You have us, Ashley or I host these sessions every week. Ashley and I are always inside of our community, along with our team member Con, to make sure that all your questions are getting answered and the support you need is in there as well. So here's what it includes. It includes your exact pipeline template. So it gives you the tasks, it gives you the emails, it gives you the messages, it gives you all the things that you're going to need to build that out. It's also going to give you an implementation plan. And I love this plan because what it does is it tells you every week, here is what you need to accomplish. And it breaks it down for you in the 4 weeks so that you can get it done in a timely manner, check it off. I know a lot of us like checklists, and it guides you. So you can have a plan of what you need to do, and you don't have to waste your time thinking, what am I supposed to do right now? So it really guides you to help you understand how that's going to work for you and your firm. We talked about the deep dive trainings that you need, but not all the fluff. So it's just really guided trainings. We have the live Q&A each week that provides that accountability. And we also have that community of our peers that we can ask those questions in as well. Okay, so templates and trainings, weekly live, community and support, and 4-week implementation guide. This is valued at over $5,000, but it's cool this time of year. We do have a lot of bonuses available for our quick action takers. So you will get access, like I kind of mentioned, to our lead onboarding pipeline as well. This is one of our most popular ones because hopefully your business is growing and you want a way to onboard your leads. We have a year-end annual update guide, a bonus training in there around scaling your firm in TaxDome. You will get full access to our entire membership, which is our entire course over the length of time that you're in this boot camp, where you get access to all of our pipeline templates. So not just the tax, bookkeeping, and lead onboarding. In this bonus, you actually get access to all of our pipelines. You also will get bonus access. So the program is 4 weeks. We're going to give you a bonus 4 weeks on top of that so that you have extra time in there to, go through the program, ask your questions, all of those things. We also have put together a quick start A+ Academy training. These are our admin training tools. So if you do have an admin on your team and that you want to help support you with TaxDome, we have a quick start training program that we've put together that will give some of our best trainings to your admin so that they can really just start learning some of the tools and how to help support you as well. So I mentioned the value of this all earlier, but we do have this special right now, and it is available for a one-time fee of $297. So this link right here will take you straight to it. I'm going to put it in the chat right here. Hopefully that works. So in case you're interested, and I'll include this for anyone who's watching the replay as well. If you have any questions about this program, what it includes, there's a lot of information on our website, but you are also always welcome to message Ashley and I at hello@Cabot in Maine. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram and reach out to us there as well. We're always happy to answer your questions. And keep in mind, the goal of this program, when you look at your 4 weeks, it's going to take you to, we account for the holiday in there, to early to mid-January. It is the perfect time to do it. If you start now, you're going to get it done before, February and on starts. It's very doable, even with the holidays. We have had a lot of members go through it during the holidays. And so we know it's possible. We know you can do it, and we will be there to help you with it. So that's it for today's training, today's workshop. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. And like I said, if you ever have any questions about any of it, we're always available on email, or you can message us on social media as well, and we'll get back to you there. And with that, I will leave you to the rest of your day, and I appreciate your time in being here, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you.